Please hold while I confirm your passcode. Your passcode is confirmed. All attendees have been muted. You can unmute your line by pressing *6. Please enter your personal identification number or PIN, followed by the pound or hash key. When known, you will be the 21st person to join the meeting.
Okay. You have to say it out loud. Diane, you have to press *6. Okay. Can you guys hear me now? And I can hear some background noise, which means not everybody's muted. And it sounds like I need to start all over again. And Lynn, can you send me a little email to tell me that you can hear me? I can hear you again. Okay. Okay, Tanya. Well, anyway, let's start all over again with a good welcome and Happy New Year. Glad everybody's with us. And it's like most everybody's logged in. Be sure that if you can see your name up there at the top with the telephone. Shell and Dr. Louie are not connected fully yet, so please go ahead and finish the login process. And I want to be sure that everybody sees hand raising, and I'm going to raise mine so you can see that. The sign is right there with the, right next to right below the list of names there. And I want to make this session as interactive as we can, so I'm wanting to be sure that everybody can see that, so that when we talk a little bit, we can be sure to have everybody who wants to talk, and I can call on you, and then you can unmute your line. So I'm going to ask a little question here. How many, and then your hand with an answer, and I can just take a quick look here. How many of you have never teaching experience before, never been in a classroom or clinical teaching somebody something? Raise your hand. So I see we have, looks like there's 4 or 5 of you never taught before. Okay, that's perfectly, fine and expected, because you've come right into this program, and there would really be no reason that you've had teaching experience. Okay, I'm going to ask another. So everybody put hands down. I'm going to ask another question. How many of you have had 1 year of teaching experience? Your hand. Oh, it looks like we have two people that have had 1 year. 3 people. Okay, I'm going to ask this question. How many of you have more than 3 years of teaching experience? Okay. And I think probably in this group there's some who've had more than 20 and 30 years, but I won't go there with that question. But it looks like we have a little bit of a range. And those of you that have had some teaching experience, you're trying to go to your next level of the evidence that supports our teaching practice, and learn some new strategies and new curricula kinds of things. So it's perfectly the direct moving it in. Those of you who have never had teaching experience, by the end of these next 2 years, you will have had a chance to do that. So, we're going to focus today on a little bit about the role of the nurse educator. And those of you that have been in that role, you'll recognize some of the elements. And those of you that haven't, you can relate to some of the experiences that you've had by watching your faculty members be in these roles. So we'll talk about what it is that educators do. I'm going to give you some examples of my colleagues that I admire greatly in their roles and how they do their different kinds of roles. And I'm going to do 2 teaching strategies. One is to draw a concept map. Another is to do a think, share activity. Probably here, because we're doing it in the web and you guys can't pair up with each other, we'll just do think and share. So I'm hoping we'll get some good interaction going. So game plan for today, and as you know, we'll try to wrap this up around 2:30. So here we go. So in case you have been wondering, what is it that nurse educators do? Let's kind of talk about some of these things. And in the last, looks like now 7 years, we've scanned the literature and tried to pull together the competencies and kind of a scope of practice here for the advanced practice role of nurse educator. And the National League for Nursing has done some of this original work, and you can read in detail. They have a hook out on it. And actually, another way you can look at the details of these competencies is I did send out to you that assessment that Terry Valiga shared with us. You don't need to do anything with it or send it to anybody, but just be sure that if you want to have a detailed look at what these competencies are and where you are in relation to attaining them, that list is very helpful. So here I'll kind of give some highlights and clear all understand that what nurse educators do is to facilitate learning. And note that this is different from teaching. Teaching is what the teachers do. Learning is what the students do. And in the new way of thinking about teaching and learning, we're trying to emphasize that we're working with the students and their needs, and that we're trying to help them where they are in their process of learning, and because we have students with lots of different needs and experiences. So one of the biggest things that we do is to facilitate learning, and of course that happens in the classroom and in the clinical too. So and those of you at William Patterson, you're going to be taking a course on teaching strategies, and you can learning some of the different ways that we can, and techniques and so on, that we use to facilitate learning for our students. So part of what us educators do is to facilitate learner development, and this kind of goes along with the developing more than just their knowledge and skills, but help them understand what the role of a nurse is, help them become socialized to the profession, all the behaviors and ethical comportment that we want them to be acquiring. So we're helping students develop as people, even, not only just as nurses. So a big part of what we do as educators is to help with the learner development. And we also use assessment and evaluation strategies. And that word assessment is kind of interesting, and it's a word we use in the nursing process too, so it's evaluation for that matter. But assessment in education circles means kind of looking at the progress where students are, kind of getting a feel for learning, and not necessarily making judgments and giving grades about it, but giving them feedback about their progress. So assessment strategies we'll talk about, and I think some of you probably will be learning this term in some of the courses you're taking. And of course, the evaluation strategies, and of course, comes to mind is the test. And I think some of you have that test construction course, so you've probably learned at least that particular strategy. But there's many others too that educators employ. We can even use simulations for as evaluation, and papers that the students write, and role play, and a lot of the strategies that we use for facilitating learning can also be used to evaluate. And then the last thing that that goes along with the assessment and evaluation is to assign grades, and that's all wrenching challenge sometimes, particularly when we have to give grades that the students aren't happy about. We're not happy to give them, but that's again part of the role is to make judgments that the students that we're working with are passing, and you will be safe for professional practice. So that's a big. I'd say that facilitating learning and assessing and evaluating is probably a real big part of the educator role. And another part is to participate in curriculum design, and sounds like a couple of you are taking a curriculum course, and that will do courses and how the courses fit within the big picture of the academic program. And I'll just say my perspective, we're doing much more curriculum work right now. You all ended that session with Miller talked to you about the report, the new OM RWJF report about the future of nursing. And if you remember reading or want to go back and read it again, you'll notice that we're really talking about redesigning some of the curriculum to prepare students for the future health care needs. So ultimately, you will be involved in doing some curriculum design work, because we're doing, it seems like, quite a bit of it right now, and we'll be doing redesign work, and then we have lots of new programs coming on. The DMP has, faculty have been busy designing a new type of academic program. The DM, if any of you have clinical nurse leader programs in your area, and certainly another recommendation from the IOM report, Future of Nursing, is to have programs that quickly advance the students who are in associate degree programs to get their baccalaureate degree, and that's another curriculum design issue. Actually, over the years, New Jersey has been a leader in that, and I know you have legislation pending that will try to help say that in 10 years after graduating from an associate degree program. But that comes back to a curriculum design issue, to have curricula that will facilitate that transition. So I think another big part of the role, particularly for in the future, will be to be participating in curriculum design. So, lots of ins and outs of that. So if you have a chance to take a curriculum course, be sure that you do. So if we put learning, evaluation, and curriculum, those as big things, also there's other aspects of this role, and that is to fund as a change agent and leader. And through the program, we are really hoping that being prepared as a leader and a change agent for the faculty positions in New Jersey. And we'll be graduating with the latest evidence and theories and experiences that will that are the best practices for teaching and learning and helping the students. And you will be working in a change agent role and in leadership positions. So this is all just a part of the educator role. And those of you that have worked in nursing service, the leadership roles and change agent roles are part of working in nursing service as well. So those of you you're being prepared for practitioner roles, this will be part of the role as well. So you certainly are going to be well prepared and have lots of wonderful experiences here in the next year and a half in this program too. So as part of it, the educator role evolved. One thing I've always loved about being an educator is there's so many different ways that you can enact this role. And I think of all the many years that I've taught, I'm not sure that I've ever done the same thing, in more than 2 years. there's been new opportunities and new directions to move in. You know, granted, it builds and evolves. You don't end up in all these roles within 1 year, but it's a continuous evolution. And when we talk about some examples here, I'll share how some of my colleagues have evolved their role. And here's another aspect of what educators do, and that is to engage in scholarship. And it's an expected part of the role for regardless of the educational preparation. So people who are prepared at master's levels as well as at doctoral levels are expected to do some sort of scholarly work. Notice this does not say research. The big cap R, although we want the people in educator roles to be doing research. We need them, and we need them to be doing research about nursing education practices and help us develop evidence for our practices, because we have many, many gaps in our research here in nursing education. But scholarly work in terms of testing some strategies in the classroom and disseminating results, either in writing or in presentations. To be participating on research projects, to be writing grants, and continue to extend the role. So, scholarly work where you are, testing and disseminating work about teaching and learning. So there's that, and then function within the educational environment. And for sure, whatever we do, we're never in a vacuum. There's always the organizational structure that surrounds us, and in faculty roles, you'll certainly the educational environment of your school. We can come to your class, and then we can build up, to your department, up to the school, and up to the university, college, and the campus level kinds of environments. And you want to be put your finger in the wind and watching whatever's going on in all of those environments. But again, this is something that kind of evolves. But the education environment, just like in nursing service environments, there's unique norms and expectations and nuances of what that environment is, and you'll want to understand and develop into that, working in that environment. So I've rattled on here a whole lot. I'm going to ask if you have any questions or comments, and I see some faculty here, and if any of the faculty, or those of you that raised your hands and have had role, experience, be sure to add to this discussion. And maybe there's some things that you found important in your role, but weren't here. So raise your hand if you would like to contribute here to the question, and then I'll call you and we'll do the mute and unmute. Does anyone want to this list of competencies? Thinking, I'll go back and tell you that these competencies came from a review of literature about the educator role, so they just weren't pulled out of thin air. And each of these, of course, has lots of different things, but this is the main picture here. So any comments or questions? Okay, seeing none, we'll move ahead then. All righty. And let's see. There we go. And just to know that in this faculty preparation program, specifically, there are competencies that have been identified, and they basically derive from those that we just discussed. I'll give a minute to kind of review and think about them. And, again, here important is the curriculum development piece, and you're writing course objectives and student goals. And kind of think about that. And your curriculum course certainly will help you do that, and any other time that you have an opportunity to develop a lesson plan or so on. Learning activities and teaching experiences, you're going to have a great opportunity to do that. And I think from what I observed last year, most everybody has a chance to do, some kind of a mentored teaching experience on work with your curriculum and your evaluation activities, and do, again, pay attention to the learning environment that you are in as a scholar, and then you can also be thinking about what it is that you are creating for your students and how they help them learn to be reflective practitioners. And the teaching learning strategies and using the evidence-based tools to evaluate the learners in those three domains, cognitive, psychomotor, and affective. And again, those of you that have had the evaluation course probably talked about those. Do know that these are the specific ones for your faculty preparation program, and I know that the issue of portfolio comes up now and then, and we do ask that you take a look at competencies, whichever ones you want to use, these from the faculty preparation program, the NLN, or any others that you have at your school. And, this is what you want to be assessing yourself and planning here for your next year and a half that you work toward attaining these. So that's the whole story here about these competencies. And this, it's basically what teachers do. So I guess I'm going to move ahead because I don't see anybody with raised hands. And if you want to interrupt anytime, you just let me know, and we'll settle here. But, so what does all this mean? What do they do? I want to lay out for you, again, these roles, and it's another way of looking at them. They're were first described by Ernest Boyer in 1990, and goes into a little bit more detail, but they basically boil down to the three classic roles of what faculty members do, and certainly faculty members in schools of nursing follow these as well. The teaching role, basically what we've talked about there, with the nurse educator competencies. Service, and that can be service to the school, to the campus, university, and certainly the profession. And in nursing, we lost the train of thought here. And so we take this to mean also, clinical practice service. Now, when I tell you somebody who, she really has a significant service component to her role. And then the third role is doing the research or scholarship, just like we talked about a minute ago. And asked me to go back and highlight you who Ernest Boyer was, and I'll give my little 2 cents, and then I think Lynn probably even has a perspective than I do, but he working for the Carnegie Foundation, and I think he was doing some research or at least thinking, and his book is called Scholarship Reconsidered, and what he found was that in academic life, there was an emphasis put on research and scholarship, and that's really what faculty were doing and getting rewarded for, and where the money and raises were coming from. In fact, there were many faculty who were also doing teaching and service, and he helped us understand that these three roles are equally important. And if you're a star researcher, if you can't teach, you're not, really doing a service to the university. And he also came up with the notion that as with research, which can be peer-reviewed and rewarded and funded, we can also reward and fund teaching and service. So these three aspects of faculty life, in most instances, form now the base for promotion and tenure. So you will see that as you move forward in your faculty role, that you need to be doing activities in all three of these areas, documenting them, and having them peer-reviewed. So, Ken, do you want to add anything to that?
Not necessarily. I think you did a perfect of explaining it, and I just thought it was worth a moment there really highlighting who he was and what this had done, because this really is the foundational document, and his, these three principles, as you've delineated, three roles as explained it, Diane, that all of higher ed, it's now their benchmark. And so I think, you are entrenched in nursing education and pedagogy related to that. And I just wanted to kind of pull this out that this is, really also the benchmark for the rest of your faculty colleagues outside of nursing too. So that's kind of why, everyone will always refer to the Boyer report and Boyer this and Boyer that, and this is who he is, and he was really pretty incredible and well respected, and it lives on. So
yeah,
I just wanted to kind of pull that into a bigger context for everyone to really pay attention a little bit more. And it could, at certain points, be worth it for the scholars to go and to read that document so that really understand it, because it, particularly that what's meant by service, what's meant by scholarship, that gets so much into, I think, the success, personal success as well as a professional success as a faculty member is really having a good handle on that and building one's career off of it. So
yeah,
thank
great.
you.
Well, thanks for adding that, because it is true. You will be the faculty environment will be based on these three major. And Lynn mentioned that it's the context for the university and all of the faculty at the campus, not just nursing faculty. And as you will learn about, and this is, again, kind of goes back to the notion of functioning effectively in an academic environment, your work will be judged by people outside of nursing, and you want to be sure that you are working at the standard at the university as well. And if this intrigues you and you want to see how it plays out, if you want to go back to the lesson, the CLC on the portfolio, and there's some examples of personal statements and studies, Evelyn's document about her portfolio she's putting forth for promotion and tenure, and you can see how she organizes it around these three roles. So, big in terms of the environment in which you're working. So Boyer, gives a good model, and I think we're still seeing it. So I'm going to talk now about my favorite people, and these are kind of composites. And I'm talking to you about them in terms of their role, and then I've highlighted where their work comes back to the competencies. So Evelyn, and she's a master's prepared and certified. I don't know that I have her credentials just exactly right, but she's a clinical assistant professor. She has a clinical track appointment, which means her primary work at the school is to be doing teaching, class and clinical supervision of students. But in the description, scholarship is a part of this role, and certainly so is service. So even if your assignment is primarily to be doing teaching, you will need to realize that if you're developing a career instead of doing a job, you want to be sure that you're doing all of these, the teaching service and scholarship. Evelyn, she's a nurse practitioner, and she basically, I believe she works almost time as a nurse practitioner. She's a high-energy lady and has a full-time appointment at a school of nursing, and she just does a lot of service, but she's very clever in how she integrates all of the things that she does, and that's kind of the survival key here for working in the role. So she, in her other service, this is a service, she has been president of the Indianapolis Neonatal Nurses Organization, and she's because of her work and her expertise, she's on some national committees. But what I love about Evelyn is that she is so good about combining her clinical practice service with her teaching, because what she does is she takes her students to the same unit where she is working, which means she knows the nurse there and knows the patients and so on. And then sometimes she stays on after her teaching assignment is finished and does staffing for the hospital. And this is how she is getting her hours for her, to maintain her certification. And I think she works during vacations and during the when she's not doing teaching and things like that. So she can keep up her certification by integrating what she's teaching her students with her nursing service practice. And to me, this is just an ideal situation. It doesn't happen all the time, but she's made it work. And then because she's doing all this, she serves as a change agent. She can help us with help on at the School of Nursing because she knows all the current practices from working in the hospital. So she's a change agent in helping develop the curriculum in her course and the role even because she's undergraduate clinical, but she also teaches in the neonatal nurse practitioner program. So she's a change agent there, but she's also a change agent in the hospital because she is seeing also the current research and evidence and so on that happens at the school that she can bring back over to the hospital. So Evelyn is ideal. And as I mentioned, you want to read her statements and her promotion and tenure dossier. She shared that with you, so feel free to look at that. So I would say that Evelyn's main area here, and this is a good reason for her to be on the clinical track, is that she's firmly planted in the clinical setting. And I think some of you probably will be planted there as well because you're getting NP degrees. So her teaching, she teaches the undergrad PEDS course, and then she does the master's level nurse practitioner. And this is a new program, so she was hot and heavy into doing curriculum and course development. So that's where the curriculum is in. And these new courses up, and you will be tapped, I'm sure, for doing some of this curriculum work because you will be, fresh with the content knowledge, and you certainly will want to be doing some course revision as you become, more familiar with working side of the curriculum. And she's, a leader certainly for developing the courses in that NP major. She is a fabulous teacher and, a great approach to working with students. And she's not dumping a bunch of knowledge on them, although she could because she's got lots of it. But she understands the art of teaching and more to be a facilitator. So she's helping learn, and she's giving resources, but she's not spouting out all the information. I rarely see her lecture. I see her more engaging the students in, cases and clinical learning experiences, and then helps them see what it is that they need to draw on to make, to develop their clinical decisions and work with their patients. And Evelyn teaches in an online course. She's developed evaluations, which is another teaching strategy, and she's been using that to evaluate students. And she also, I know she's developed tests, so she's a good writer, and she has those tests in an online course. And then she's also done some test development for a licensing exam review book. So Evelyn, as I said, she's high energy, but she's doing, all those roles of teaching. And of course, service and teaching is not enough. The role is to be doing quality work too. And not that she does all this all the time. This is kind of a composite over, many years of her career. But she also, got a grant that was funded, and that she developed an entire online NICU web course here from grant funding. So she was, had some scholarly work in terms of implementing the grant and, managing the funds. And then the next step from doing any of this work, I believe, is to always write about it. So she has published about that, and we've done. The grant is involved with too, so we did a lot of co-authorship of then she, has had a nice opportunity to do her scholarly work from that. And she's a wealth of to-date clinical information, so she is thought to presenter at national meetings, and she now has the skill of teaching online. So, of course, role development is never finished, and all these things that you see her doing here, those certainly have evolved, and she's developed her role, of this. But now, recently she became certified, so that was something that she was working on. And now she's applied to the DMP program, and that's a great next step for her. And I know you all are going to be thinking about applying to a doctoral program. And for Ellen, the DMP program, I believe, is a great fit because she is a practice person. Her heart is in practice, but she's activating that too through students. So, it's a great fit. So I think I'm looking forward to her seeing what all the wonderful things she can accomplish when she's working the DMP program. So there you have an example of somebody whose main faculty role is anchored in a service setting, and she's also providing service nationally and, to a profession there. What you don't see here is Evelyn serving in a lot of committees at the School of Nursing. And you move through your roles, you need to kind of pick and choose where you're going to do your service. And for Evelyn to be able to do this at national levels, and provide her leadership there, this is a good use of her expertise. So there's Evelyn. And I'll look and see if anybody has comments or questions. I feel like I'm talking fast and furious here. Okay. Well, so you see competencies, how they pull through the way that this role can be done. Now I'm going to introduce you to Janet, who is an assistant professor of nursing, and probably her main efforts right at this moment. She's newly graduated from her doctoral program. So she's, I am sorry. Most of her efforts need to be placed here related to her scholarly activity, and she has a PhD, and she is prepared to do research. Her major area, I guess we call it, was in teacher education. So she was looking at the evidence of doing her research about developing the science of nursing education, and her work was related to teaching strategies and how faculty adopt the new strategies that are available to us now. So she has done some publications. She's presented her papers at various nursing organizations, and currently she's looking at her research. We're doing research about simulation and the CUSIN competencies, and I think here just in the last couple of years, she's probably had three grants to fund her work, and so this is a big part of what her role is focused at right now. And she, of course, is teaching all. That's again for everybody. That's why we have faculty appointments, and the courses that she's teaching right now are the capstone courses and the undergrad leadership course, and she teaches the teacher ed courses in the master's program. And she also now, and part of it because of the call from the Future of Nursing, it's an online the BSM program wide, and she is providing the leadership to that. So she's developing her leadership skills and, of course, redesigned to make all those courses available. Her service is, to National League for Nursing, which makes sense with her focus on nursing education. And she's on one of those task forces. And here's another tip, and how she is integrating her work with her need to be published. The committee that she's on decided that they would push their work and do it a research study instead of just doing it as a report. So they are making it a little more scholarly, but that would tie back into her research and service. And then her role development, she's participating in a mentor leadership program, and this will help her develop skills. So there's a newly appointed doctoral faculty member who's on your track and needs to be doing her getting publications and doing research and scholarship. She had some teaching experience prior to her appointment, so probably she has that under her belt. And her service, she is looking at doing this at, again, national levels. And I'm sure she's done many, and I know she has many committees doing service at the School of Nursing, and certainly doing the curriculum work is considered service. So Janet, and now I want you to meet Gail. And Gail is master's prepared, and she is a certified nurse educator. She took the certification exam based on those competencies that we've discussed. Her title is clinical lecturer, and the responsibility for a lecturer is teaching a clinical lecturer. But she's savvy, and she knows that she needs to be attending to her larger career and not just doing the job. And so she also has done scholarly work and has done quite a bit of work with her role development. So she teaches Learning Lab, and she's a course leader, which is a leadership position and change agent position. And her work is to facilitate learning for the students and also the faculty, because there are a lot of new innovations there in the Learning Lab and the Learning Resources Center, particularly of simulations. So she's been helping the faculty learn how to use simulations. And certainly a big part of her teaching role here is to evaluate students, because that's basically what happens in the Learning Resources Center. The skill competencies are evaluated and graded. And she also has a change agent here, and certainly a lot of curriculum work with revising the courses and so on. And she's a fabulous teacher, and she was named Indianapolis Teacher of the Year for all of the great work that she's done. Said she doesn't just stop there. She realizes that the role is bigger than just teaching, and she has tried to her scholarly work going as well. And she has published some of the work that they've done in the Learning Resources Center about the simulations. And she has part of a grant. She didn't write it, but she's been working on implementing it, and that counts as part of her scholarship. And they're looking at some of the measures of effectiveness for using simulations. And then those that are using the Bill and Ted book, she wrote a chapter on clinical teaching in that book. So you can see an idea of how scholarship looks like from somebody who's master's prepared. And she also writes some licensing exam questions. And her side, I would say, primarily is to the school and somewhat to the campus. She's pretty tied up at teaching and doing her scholarly work. And she too has maintained a career role development. She became certified, and she continues her education by attending workshops and conventions. So they have it. 3 different ways of implementing the role, and different emphasis in each one of them, and different requirements for the academic appointment that each one of these have. I'm going to now move here to some reflection. I would really like for everybody to I'll go over these portions, but I would love for you to answer, get a little discussion going here is what I'm trying to say. So let's take that first one first. What do you see here, how these 3, or any role for that matter, is guided by the educator competencies? What did you see from the 3 examples? And so I know you all know how to use that raise your hand signal, and when you do, I'll call on you, and we'll see if we can get a little dialogue going. So, kind of think back here. What ed competencies did you see enacted in these three family members? Okay, Louis. And if you,
yes.
are on, yeah, go ahead.
I wanted to comment on those case studies. I wanted the other scholars to note that they were quite accurate as far as the types of appointments. I know it's a little premature for this cohort, but for the cohort that's soon to be graduating, they're really looking very hard at the various appointments and where they fit. And, if they're very new in their career in nursing, obviously, even at the advanced practice role, they'd like to get some more experience under their belt. So they may want a clinical appointment where they can get some of that nursing experience in addition to expectations of teaching. So I did want to comment that those case studies were quite exemplified of those appointments.
Okay, great. Well, thanks for sharing that. And, the scholars can be seeking out some of these experiences even now before they move into the, an appointment. So this should give some little clues as to what kinds of activities to look at. So, Scott, how does this sound to you? Let's just even open it up to a broader perspective. Yes.
Diane. So I'll just step up and say something since nobody else is. I'll just say something. So honestly, it's very overwhelming. I mean, I think it's, and it should be. If it wasn't, then I'd probably be even more nervous. So, because I think that all three of the answers that you did to us have amazing, portfolios, and I think, and just when you were going through them all, I was kind of like, okay, how am I going to make this all work? But I guess, so you could obviously see that they're competent because you sure that they teach, that they, that some of them have a clinical background, and then they also maintain the scholarship, doing good for the school and putting back into the school. So I think there's more levels of competencies in each of one of those, in each of their roles that they play.
Yeah, thank you for commenting. And yes, this is probably overwhelming. I realize that, but at the same time, I think you kind of want to know where you're going and what the realities of being a faculty position are like, and how you can position yourself to come along. And also, next year when you are appointed, these are going to be your colleagues, so you understand what it is that they're doing and how they can help you. So, again, these are just ideas. They're probably ideal, but I was trying to pick ones that were realistic in terms of there's some different ways that this role gets implemented, and there's different educational preparations for these roles too. So thank you for your there. And I'm going to call on Dean Bliss. And
hello.
Hi,
Diane. It's Julie Bliss.
Yeah.
I am just fascinated, and I agree with Kim that the roles, the three individuals that you presented were certainly very realistic. My concern, or perhaps my question, is that all of these scholars are expected to be clinicians as well as teachers. And I think that one of the difficulties or frustrations, perhaps, is moving into two new roles simultaneously. And I really just wanted to share with the students that we realize that this is happening. It's not that you're just being educated to become a teacher, you're also being educated to become a practitioner. I think that they're going to be leading the way on how to do this.
Yes, and thanks for sharing that and for reminding us that we really need to be helping the scholars move in direction. And I would, one of the reasons I put Evelyn's story there. Evelyn was, first a neonatal nurse, worked in the NICU, and then she came to teaching. So in some ways, she had a background to draw on and then add to with her teaching role. And the scholars will need to probably be picking the best of two different roles and getting them merged. And they will be starting out like Evelyn has ended up. And it might be kind of fun to see that if starting out that way, we get even, some stronger faculty members because they are have feet in both areas. It is a challenge to be getting all of the competencies, both the practice, the NP competencies as well as the educator competencies. And my advice is to try to get as many of these accomplished now while working in school, and kind of double dip with some of your papers, some of your experiences where you can, have a chance to be in a classroom or at least pay attention to what's going on in the classroom and what's working and what isn't. So we are, fully aware that the scholars are facing some challenges, but we're hoping we're preparing them to be able to rise up and meet them.
I agree with you, and it is an exciting time, and I think the students are certainly well qualified to do it. I just wanted them to know that we realized it was challenging.
Yes, and I try to tiptoe into these realities, but at the same time, I think to not have them on the table is not going to be helpful either. So we'll get the balance. But I do realize, and the that I talked about, they have been around for a long time, and all this didn't happen for them on day one either. So it's just kind of the direction to be going in and to be kind of aware of. So we'll leave it like that and think of it as an inspiration, not a requirement. So Tony, you have your hand up.
Hi, Dr. Billings. How are you? Sorry, my voice is different. I have cold, so I might be coughing a little bit. I just want to add something from personal experience about this. Like in undergrad, we had one nurse practitioner, just like Evelyn. Actually, almost feel you're talking about her. And I have to say, like, she was also like a pediatric MP, and she took us to where she worked. And it was a completely different learning experience as an undergrad. Like, I had a lot of clinical rotations, like everyone does at the undergrad. But her rotation, I mean, I don't know if any, her rotation was like very unique. Like, it made a big difference in the way she presented, just because she was very strong clinically. She was in her area where she worked, and she brought us her environment, and she knew exactly what she gave us, like which patients give us and what to discuss after, and it really made all the difference in teaching pediatrics, like clinical rotations. So I just want to add that.
Okay, thank you, because that should give all the scholars some confidence. You are going to have, the clinical practice skills and the role, and you will be giving much more to the students in a clinical setting than faculty. Like Gail, for example, who really has been only working in the Learning Resources Center. She has not been in a clinical setting for a while, and I don't believe Janet has either. So you have the advantage, and then maybe you can be thinking about the advantage that you have when you're seeking your position is that you want to be a clinical setting where you are working with students using the skills that you're prepared for. And that's kind of what Evelyn and Tony, that's what you're saying, is when the faculty member can be anchored in a real-world clinical setting that they are working in, the experiences for the students are so much better. So that, as a positive or as a gift that you're bringing to the school. So that's great. Thanks, Tony, for sharing. And Ruta, you comment here to me in the chat, and I'll say it, and then if you want to explain it a little bit more, I'll have you pick your line and talk to us. But Ruta is saying that she sees that there's so many different options of ways to fitting in the faculty role. And Ruta, when you say it makes me feel like I've accomplished what I was intending to, because the way you can do these roles is so varied. And there's roles for beginning faculty, we're going to ease into it. And, there's places for growth. And that's what I've loved about being a faculty member is each year is different. There's many opportunities. And once I've, was able to master clinical teaching, then I could move on to something else. And once I learned to teach classroom, then I could learn to teach online. And, there was both opportunities, but the options are innumerable. So, Ruth, you want to add to that?
No, I have to thank you for giving us all those examples because they were really great as far as, and telling you that it doesn't have to be done tomorrow, that, you have time and that you should be worried and it will all come depending on what area you focus on and whatever you choose to do.
Yeah, I think that's just a nice way to maybe even wrap up here because we can see in this reflection that there's, different ways that the roles can be implemented, and each school of nursing is going to be different in the emphasis. And I have to say that for these people are working, it's a research-intensive, large school of nursing, with masters in, undergrad, BSN, and all the BSN programs, and the master's and doctoral. So that school, the norms at that school and the expectations are different from a school where the emphasis may be just only on the teaching aspect of things, and the expectations are not as strict for the scholarly and service. So each school has a different way of implementing these roles, and certainly saw that these change over a career. So thank everybody for the reflection, and you guys can continue to have this discussion in your small groups and with your mentors and so on. So I think I'm going to move on here just a little bit because I want to give you guys a chance to be thinking about what these roles look like for you. So let me head here to what your vision for the faculty role and kind of your vision for it right now. And it would be really fun if you could save what we're going to do and reflect, pull it out next year, several years later, and see how it changes. But anyway, we're going to do a concept map. And those of you, let me explain what the concept map is. And those of you who have had the teaching strategies course or are having it, maybe you have talked about a concept map. And usually when I'm talking to groups about strategies, this is if I ask how many people know what a concept map is, most people don't raise their hand. But anyway, I want you to know about it because I think it's a fun way to facilitate learning. And what concept map is the participants' view of all of the concepts that have been discussed. It's a way for them to pull together their understanding and to create knowledge that they want to create from the information that they've received. So it's a very generative type of learning process where it's coming from the student's perspective of what they have heard and what they want to remember about it. And the starts with the major concepts, and this example is talking about the nursing faculty shortage, but the concept map we're going to do next is about nurse educator roles. So that will be your centerpiece, and you can see that you can make it visual. You can, they can be anything that you want. In some ways, I even hate to show this because it kind of starts implying that there's interest in like this. But you can draw it any way you want. But what you see now then is there's sub-concepts, and here we have in the green there's the strategies, and then there's sub-concepts under strategies, and then the brown there's the impact of the shortages, and then the red is the future opportunities, and then the blue is the causes. So this particular person who was drawing this concept map was looking at those major sub-concepts and then put other things under them. So basically, the concept map is a way to pull together information that has been presented, allowing the student to it in their own mind and do something with it. And it can be because it can be infinitely different because it's drawn by the person for whom this information has meaning. So it's meaning to what's been learned. But anything the concept maps can be used for, it's a teaching learning strategy, but it also can be evaluation strategy. So if I were to pick this up, look at it after I had had a session with students about nursing faculty shortages, I would look at this and I would say, oh, this student understands that there's been causes of it and that it's related to we need to now look at solutions and strategies. And I could see how their mind was working and that they got the main point. So concept maps, that's a teaching learning strategy, and it's also evaluation strategy. So that's concept maps, and I'll just be sure that everybody understands what one is, because you guys are going to do one in a minute here. So, do you have any questions? So, next, I'm going to teach another strategy, and this strategy, we're going to try to do both of these. It's called Think, Pair, Share, and it's a way of getting some active learning going. I've been, lecturing more or less, which I generally don't like to do, and that certainly is a disadvantage of the webinars. But we've got some information out, and now I want you to, in this strategy, we want the students to be thinking about what they've learned, and in this case, you're going to make your own concept map. In the Think, Pair, Share strategy, then we would have people pair up and discuss that with one other person. And if you are in a room where you have somebody to discuss it with, that would be great. I think that's probably not the case in the webinar, but I'd say then save it and discuss it with your mentor. And if I were doing this where we had all the scholars and the mentors together, I would have them pair up with their mentor, because it would be lots of fun to see what the mentor thought the role of the nurse educator was and what the scholar was, and kind of compare. So save it for later. And then the last step is then to get some sampling of what's going on with the group and have them share. So we will do the think. We'll have you make your concept map, and we will do the share. And after, I'll probably give you about 5 minutes, and then we'll just ask you to kind of tell us about it. We won't draw it. We won't be able to draw it out, and I won't be able to see it. But you can talk us through, what got out of it. So let me be sure that everybody's clear on the task. You're going to draw a concept map, and then, I'll ask for some volunteers to start with this, verbally. So is he clear on the task? Okay, so I'm just going to have you all away. And I'm going to send a little message to Gerald here, because he's a WebEx producer, and he is going to give us some inspirational music, background music, while we work here. So there he goes. Thanks, Gerald. Okay, we got background music. About 5 minutes. Okay, close the concept. Diane, and I'm just going to jump in over the music here just for a second. If you're pondering and haven't written anything down quite yet, the center topic, the center can be educator roles, but you could make it anything that you want to out of what we've discussed. And then as far as the branches, again, the beauty of the concept map is it's for you to draw what resonated for you and how you envision the nurse educator role, and even thinking ahead to your first position here or wherever you are thinking about it. And some of you will be thinking about it because you've had 10 years of teaching experience, and some of you will be thinking about it because you haven't had any experience. So that's the fun of the concept map. You can do it any way you want, but probably logically, some of the branches, we've had some key concepts there, and if it helps you to think of those, pull out what you thought were the key concepts of our discussion. So I hope that helps. We have about another 3 or 4 minutes. Okay, I think I'm guessing everybody's just about finished, and you can certainly continue to work on this, and I'd say put this in your portfolio, and come back and refine it at the end of this semester, and certainly at the end of next year when you're wrapping up here from your program. So would somebody love to tell us what your concept map looks like, and what you put in the set, what your main concepts were, and what the sub-concept and how you drew this. And anybody wants to be brave and just kind of share with us just some ideas that you had. We're not making any judgments, or we're not grading you. Just kind of trying to get some different ideas. That's the Think, Pair, Share is an assessment strategy, so that people can give feedback. Actually, you get feedback from listening to how other people did theirs. So you will learn from them. But to complete the learning activity, we need somebody to share. So either pop in online or raise your hand, and I'll call on you. No? Are you? I see a hand raised. I don't know if it's from this session or not, but
yeah, Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay, thank you. Okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Of course, I'm not sure I'm right about this. Like, or this is a task you're talking about. But let's say, free to pick a topic, right? Like it doesn't be about nursing shortage, for example.
No, it's really about the nurse educator role, about the topics that we were just discussing.
Okay, but I mean, like say like the center, the core subject. I'm thinking like say the level of clinical science. I think that touch with educators, like it affects educators.
Yeah.
This is the centers of my drawing, and of that I got like three I was like playing with. The first one is like why, and that has like a tree coming out of it that say reasons for clinical sites not to be interested to have students, obstacles, and let's say one, and then another one I said like brainstorming like how am I gonna change this, like as like for this as a house or doctor's office, or how can we go further and like offers use for like that people train or gonna educate the students, we gonna shadow them. That's the main thing, and the third thing was like how can we actually what are the steps to be taken towards this, and that's where I didn't have enough time to catch up on that after.
Okay.
That's my concept map.
Yeah, well, that sounds great. And I think what you did is you looked at an issue that a nurse educator needs to be dealing with, and you were looking at the teaching role, where the clinical role. You were looking at leadership, because to solve some of those clinical placement shortages, we have to step up in leadership roles to help work through them. So I can see from your example quite a few ways that the educator is going to have to be involved in solving that problem. So great, and thank you. Thanks for that. And just to say that with the concept map, there's not a right or wrong answer. It's being on from what the student learned about the concept that's being considered for consideration. So I see. So thanks, Tony, for sharing. And I see that Tammy has her hand raised. I'll call on her first, and then Catherine. So Tammy, go ahead. So Tammy, and you need to hit star. The star.
Hello?
Yeah.
Okay, I was trying to unmute myself. Okay. I did a concept around the nurse educator, and I was still kind of brainstorming, but just my personal feeling about what I need to be doing or what the concept map should be. I did a branch of, I did the teaching scholarship service, but something personal to me that I was trying to figure out what I need to do was I did the nurse educator should be knowledgeable, and then branching off of the knowledgeable is continuing education courses, current clinical practice, and a specialization. And then there was flexible teaching styles, because I took a class on death by PowerPoint, and you don't want to PowerPoint people to death. You want to get all the information in there, but at the same time, you don't want to read verbatim. You kind of want to give examples so it kind of clicks in people's head, because people have different learning styles. There's the visual and the story and, all those other ones. And then, so flexible teaching styles, lecture versus case studies, PowerPoint, assess student learning needs and see which way, students do learn. And then I bring off another branch with teaching, and it was kind of, do I want to teach at the associate level, baccalaureate, graduate? Do I plan on doing, am I going to continue with the doctorate or the PhD? So that would kind of give me an idea of I would be able to do the graduate level, because I think there is a more advanced degree needed to teach them. And then under scholarship, there's the grant writing. What type of grant writing? Do I want to do book publications? Do I want to write for journal versus magazine? Not really sure. Those are the three branches there. And then for service, I have public health, community health service, or, participation in one of the nursing organizations. I'm in New Jersey, so, we're all in New Jersey, but the NJSNA or the NLN or what may you, and that's pretty much all I have right now.
Okay, great. And what I loved about that is you were drawing, per heart about things that were meaningful to you, and you were also bringing in some of your previous learning experiences into it. And that's, again, what's fun about the concept map, because it is pulling together for each individual scholar or student where they with this concept that we're discussing. So you can see if you're discussing heart failure with this group of students, you have them draw a concept map. Well, some of them probably have taken care of heart failure patients and know the drugs inside and out. But if they don't, that's okay too, and they can still pull the concepts that have meaning to them. So that was great. Thank you for sharing, and I'll say keep that and keep going with it. So I have Catherine next, and then Nancy. So I think we probably have time for these two, and then I'll offer some questions, and then we'll kind of wrap up. So Catherine, go ahead.
Hi, Billings. How are you?
I'm good.
Good. Okay, I drew my map, and I came out with 4 major branches. The first was increasing knowledge in the traditional scholastic fashion, teaching pathology, disease process, and really incorporating critical thinking in the classroom. Then the second major branch was developing clinical skill sets, and that's really incorporating motor dexterity, the IV tubings, inserting Foleys, and getting people feeling, competent, in this skill set, do drug calculations. And then the next branch was psychosocial development. I really appreciated the comment that, we should be developing, personally and professionally in the classroom. And it would really incorporate an ethics, morals class dealing with death, being financial ramifications for patients, and bringing that into the classroom. And then my next branch was looking at the RN growth development after we pass NCLEX, and really to empower the nurses after graduation, and using Benner's philosophy, novice to expert, to how to better prepare yourself then to go for the master's level. And that the first year or two you're really learning how to become a nurse, taking continuing education courses, developing the critical thinking, and really empowering the ESN to go for the MSN after 2 years of practice. But people thinking about that now, while they're in school.
Great, Catherine. That was wonderful. And again, I can see that you're personalizing it to some of the kinds of things that you can visualize yourself teaching. But what I particularly noticed is that you were drawing on that competency of facilitate learner development. And that was an excellent, example of how you wanted to be sure that your the students that you were working with understood that they needed to go on for continuing studies, and that the ethical and moral development that they needed, and the movement from novice to expert. So I saw quite a few of those competencies coming through, and certainly the teaching. When you're talking about the particular content area of pathophys and the skills. So nice example, and again, personal to what has meaning to you. So we're really seeing how these maps are together for the learner. Things that have meaning for them. So thank you. Go now, Nancy Flood, probably I should say, because we have several Nancys here. So Nancy Flood.
Hi, Jack. Can you hear me?
Yes, Ann. Thanks for responding.
Hi. I envisioned the nurse educator role as constructing a building. That's just what I had in mind. And then as I was drawing it, I changed it into a suspension bridge. but what I was thinking of was bring students into competent professional nurses, and I saw the students as a brick and the professional nurses as a brick, or then I changed it to the bridge where the beginning, the one is the students, and then progressing to professional nurses, and the suspension cables or the mortar in the bricks was the nurse educator, who, and there were these suspensions going across of teaching, school, and classroom, and the service model of, model and mentoring, and then also research and your evidence-based practice is all these suspensions that were going from the faculty, through the students till they reach the end as professional nurses, and realized this was very convoluted, and I thought of it as the faculty, it is a team effort, not just one faculty member, but, the whole faculty working together to create these suspensions in each one of these sections to facilitate students to competent professional nurses.
Fabulous. And what I saw there is that you like to learn with metaphor, and you do this with a visual representation of a metaphor. And that is something that really helps people who learn that way do that. And that's another plus that about the concept map as a teaching strategy, is it allows any number of different ways of representing this. So fun you could share that we could have an example of how that's done. And I love to see these, when students submit them, so I can, see these metaphors. One thing about your metaphor that caught my attention was the faculty are the mortar. And by saying that, it made me realize that you understood the notion of facilitating learning, kind of, helping the students put the pieces together. We are not the bricks that we're out on the students. We're helping them facilitate learning, so that was great. I can visualize that suspension bridge with the faculty team, and that's curriculum, and that's the key concept of curriculum. We're all working together, even though we're teaching separate courses, so I love that. And then I'll introduce another concept for you. It's a kind of a theory, I guess, constructivist theory, if any of you were going to be studying theories of learning, and it's called scaffolding. And you know the concept?
I've heard it, but I don't.
Yeah,
I can't.
Okay. Well, it's kind of where the faculty are a scaffold around the students, but then you start taking the bricks away when the students are standing strong by themselves. So
yeah.
Kind of cleared up for me. Some of the newer thinking about faculty roles is that we are kind of the scaffold. You have to be have a lot of bricks around those beginning students, but when they're seniors, they should be you don't need so many bricks. So that was fun to hear that. So thanks for sharing. And I'm going to move ahead, get our time here, but I would love for you guys to be able to share this with your mentors, or to have further discussion of this when you meet in your group. So great job, and it's just great to visualize. Thinking about it, and I'll say, if I can tell that you have personalized what we talked about here today. So that's satisfying to me. So here is the follow-up. Continue to work on your map and, discuss it. And another thing that these maps can be used for is to write philosophy of teaching and learning. And I think that's something that we want you to be doing in your portfolios. And I'm thinking that with your cohorts, you probably are going to be talking a little bit more about that. And there's some examples of those floating in too. Actually, Evelyn's philosophy of teaching and learning is there in the document section for you. And could hear philosophies coming through from your concept map. So you can use now to be thinking about your philosophy. So I'll just say keep up the good work, I'm going to ask, well, my marketing message, and then I'll ask if there's any final questions. And before I forget, some of you asked me for examples of portfolio, and I posted one in the document section from a scholar from Shirley Dickinson from last year. Erin Clary shared one that I was able to post. I have a request out to somebody else too. Right now, if you need to see a portfolio, there's one there in the discussion forum. Okay, so today we're going to talk about grant writing, and if you're cold and want to stay warm, come and join us for this one, because at some point in time we're going to be writing grants, and not to overwhelm you or make you get anxious, but if you want background on that, or you can get the archive later. And then next in February, Cindy Reese is going to talk to us about unfolding case studies, and she's going to talk with us about how to find them. We're going to do a role play of an unfolding case study, so it's going to be a lot of fun. And we're kind of hoping that we can make this into a workshop and that you guys can be together, either with your cohorts or with your collaboratives, and kind of work together. So maybe we can end up with some actual case studies that you could use in teaching, that you could test, that you could develop, you could sell, many things that could happen big with them. So we'll see you in January and February, and then I think I will be sure to thank Tanya, who has been a huge help getting all this set up and getting the information out to you in a timely fashion. And Harold was our WebEx producer, so we thank him. And that's me if you need me. Any comments or questions here last minute that we can do? Anything else to wrap up here? Final words? Well, my clock turned over to 2:30, so we can be very punctual. And if you're logged into the next session, log out from this one and go to your email and pick out the one that's on the grant writing, so you log into that session. Okay, everybody, stay warm, stay safe, have a good start to your semester, and we'll see you in February.